Welcome to Game.
We're just in here fixing Matthew's hair.
What's wrong with my hair?
Stream.
I thought my hair was fine.
There we go. Oh, your ears are so red. Are you feeling okay?
It's really hot.
You're wearing a leather jacket. I don't think that's anyone else's fault.
Well, just because you're half undressed with your shoulder out.
How dare you? I flash a collarbone on one stream in 4 years, and you're shaming me. Wow. I have a one shoulder look going on today. I'll have you know, I am a mother. You need to respect me.
Very much so. I feel like my nightly foot massages and me cleaning the entire house with 2 hours left to go before your arrival back home. And the careful care and consideration for your baby.
Lovely, frantic cleaning while I was away on my trip. It was very sweet. But to shoulder shame me, you shoulder shamer. Matthew, the shoulder shamer.
I think it's delightful, but I wanted to give you a hard time, especially since you're giving me a hard time about my jacket. So there.
I'm just saying,
I got a jacket.
If you wanted to cool off, you could probably take your jacket off and still be okay.
Unacceptable. That's not a possibility.
It's all one. Well, we come to find out it's all one piece.
It is.
Actually.
Now I'm just taking off my shirt. It's really awkward. The whole thing. The whole 9 yards. Hey guys, welcome to T-Series.
Welcome to T-Series. It is Tuesday.
Stephanie is watching the kitty cat dance apparently on her
It came up yesterday for me, and I was like, oh man, I should go back and watch this.
And you chose to watch it now while we're trying to do a live stream.
No, it holds up. It holds up.
It's still playing, Steph.
I'm trying to switch to our own channel so that I can read the chat.
It shouldn't be that difficult, and yet we're still watching.
There we go. Okay.
Oh, thank goodness.
We're here. We're with you. We're ready to spill some tea or something. We're just ready to talk about life and the digital world.
It was a long and heartfelt battle, but ladies and gentlemen, Stephanie has made it to the live stream page. Congratulations to Stephanie. I'm going to take off my jacket because it is really hot. This is a very heavy leather jacket.
Yeah, it is.
I wanted to mix it up and wear something brown today, and I realize now that there's a reason I don't wear most of the brown things in my wardrobe, and that's because they're all overly heavy jackets.
I mean, you look swell. You look mighty fine.
Thanks.
But you don't need to impress us around here. It's okay.
I do, though. I need to impress you guys.
Your hair looks especially like 90s-tastic today. You look like you just walked off the set of Boy Meets World, a la like circa 1994. It's sort of amazing.
I talked to Topanga in the hallways this afternoon. It was great.
You're definitely like Corey's older brother,
Let's
Sean.
Go hang out at
that's his friend.
Sean is the best friend. I totally look like Sean. I totally get it. Let's go hang out at the Slice.
Ooh, was that from Boy Meets World? Was the Slice from Boy Meets World?
No, I'm trying to remember what the iconic
Sabrina?
locations were.
Oh God. Oh, I'm getting my TGIFs confused.
What was the Slice?
The Slicery was
the
Sabrina.
Slicery was Sabrina. That's it. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh man.
What was Boy Meets World? I was hanging out in the backyard talking to Mr. Feeney. Mr. Feeney and I were having a grand old time.
Oh, man.
It was great. I'm going to go hang out with Topanga after school. Oh. Whoa. When it's Boy Meets World. Hey.
All right. We need to
Girl
start
Meets
talking
World
tea.
is relevant.
Is it?
It's still on air, I think.
Ugh.
Girl Meets World. Have you guys seen Girl Meets World? We watched the first 2 episodes of it because
we made it through.
They were all right.
No, they weren't.
They were all... It's for a different generation, Stephanie.
I understand, but I don't know. It felt really sugary, and I'm okay with like some sugary sitcoms, but they really laid it on super thick.
It's like Fuller House.
Super thick.
I like a lot of sugar.
All right.
Give me that sugar.
We need to start talking tea.
Give me some sugar for that tea. What are you drinking today, Steph?
I'm back to weekend in Singapore this week.
Back to Singapore.
They smell so good.
Your other option
TWGT, I love you. Notice me, senpai.
Why are all your teas weekends? This is weekend in Dubai.
They're blends, and they're supposed to take you back to that moment that you weekended in Singapore. Like that was ever a thing that anyone did.
I'm sure
it makes me feel like I'm like a rich jet setter who's like going to weekend across an ocean. And really, I'm just sitting on a couch talking about the weird things that YouTubers did at the VMAs.
Aren't you being flown out to go to the Toronto Film Festival?
Oh my gosh,
in like a
we
week
are,
and a
but I
half?
have no idea if we can talk about that or not.
That's why I'm asking you the question rather than
So
stating
we've
the
been
fact that it's a thing.
we've been working really hard to make friends with WB, and like if you were on if you were tuning into the live stream yesterday, we got to go see the It Chapter 2 premiere, which was so much fun last night, and we got to sit next to Rhett and Link, and it was really fun, and we saw Dead Meat, and so it was just an awesome
We were
night.
hanging
Thank
out
you,
with,
WB.
Yeah, Brizzy Voices, James from Dead Meats, Rhett and Link.
Yeah.
Those were the ones that we knew and saw.
Yeah, and we're like really close to where we were sitting. They sat us like dead front and center for that movie. It was like there was no way to escape the scares where we were sitting. I had the death grip on Matthew's hand for a solid 2.5 hours.
No, the first 15 minutes was loose.
I thought it was super enjoyable. I thought it was great. The book itself, I think, has some plot issues, which they were faithful to the book, but like I thought it was really fun. Or like, you know, the way that they interpreted whatever was really neat. So, yeah.
What I will say is regardless of the movie, right? And I don't want to talk about the movie because we're still kind of far out from it. But regardless of
no
how the
spoilers,
movie
no plot points, nothing. You will get nothing here.
Regardless of how the movie turned out, the party afterward was the only time in my life that I've wanted to actually spend more time at a Los Angeles party, because we're not very big party people, and they recreated an entire carnival like straight out of the movie, which was really cool. And you know, for me, who is like secretly still stuck in like middle school activities, I like hanging out at like mini golf courses and watching movies and playing games, right? Like I just like that stuff. Getting to like shoot water guns to like win stuffed animals and eat hot dogs and go to a hall of mirrors and stuff is awesome. So that was really cool, which made me regret the fact that we only had like 5 minutes to go to it. Because we had to get home and get back to Oliver before we lost our babysitter for the night.
But it was super fun. The movie was so fun to watch. I'm so excited to be able to like do a theory on it. It's going to be really neat.
The other thing I was going to say real quick is, and I'm excited to post this one, but on our way out of the theater, a little kid comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, aren't you Matt Pat from Game Theory?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I totally am. It's nice to meet you." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you look familiar." I'm like, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was in the movie." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are you Georgie?" Georgie's the little kid in the first movie
and
who ends up.
He's in the first movie and all like.
And you like have flashbacks
Georgie.
to like he has a death at the very he's the death basically that kicks off everything that happens in the movie. That isn't a spoiler. That's like the first ever thing, right? And so in this movie you have like a flashback,
in the first movie.
But it's one of those things where that was really, so like he was excited to meet me and I was so stoked to meet him. Like, it was so cool to meet him because like this kid is really good as an actor. Like,
and he's so cute.
And he's so polite and he's so
cute.
well spoken. And it was just awesome, just across the board. So like we swapped photos of each other. It was great. But like so polite, so nice. Just like, it's interesting because I've never really like spent a lot of time with like child actors before, or met people who have like an official career that young. I'm trying to even think, like when we've worked with kids and family channels on YouTube, a lot of times we're just talking to like the parents more so than the kids.
Yeah, we usually talk to the parents. Every once in a while it's a teenager, but never like a really little kid. It's funny, growing up, we knew some people who were like really into the Broadway scene, and one of the little girls who my family knew, who was just about my age, went through like 8 rounds of auditions for Annie on Broadway.
Really?
To be one of the Annies in the show. And I just remember the way my parents were talking about it and the way her family would talk about it was that it was extremely stressful. It was like they had to take her out of kindergarten or preschool. I forget where she was, but like they had to take her out of school. They had to travel a ton. It was this massive time commitment with no guarantee on the other end that she would actually make it. And I think she made it to like the final cut and she wasn't one of the Annies.
No.
And it was like devastating because it's not just the kid who's been taking out all this time that they could have been doing ballet classes or soccer or whatever else they want to do. It's that the parents had to take, time off of work and all of this stuff. So I think it's like, it's an entire family commitment if you have a child actor who does like traditional stuff or plays or whatever.
There you go.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because even though they might not have gotten that role, at least from what I know from my time in theater, it's probably one of those things where if you're like second or third, maybe even fourth, like runner-up, for lack of a better term, like you're either probably understudying, or a lot of times when you're dealing with like children, there's very strict rules about the number of hours they can work and stuff. So maybe
there are like
you're
8
slotting
Olivers who play in Oliver. Like,
right? Yeah, that's
not
the
Our
thing.
Baby, but in like the show Oliver.
You mean Billy Elliot?
Sorry, Billy Elliot, based on
But
Oliver
the same thing
Twist.
would apply though, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where even though all that time may have felt wasted because you didn't end up getting like the main role, that's going to ultimately pay you back, I guess, down the line, where
you hope
if
so.
they need to recast or whatever, there's a chance that they'll remember you.
Yeah,
I would think.
I think it's a lot of work. It's like being a beauty pageant girl or something too. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time.
I guess is there a takeaway for beauty pageant girls outside of just like the prize money, or like does it lead to like greater careers,
scholarship funds?
Oh, okay.
Like
I did watch my fair share of Toddlers and Tiaras back in the day.
If you're good, and I think beauty pageants are going in this direction where it also depends more on like how your presentation and presence. So a lot of them can go on to do hosting jobs and like public speaking because they have all of this training being on stage and stuff. I don't know if there are other. I'm sure there are other things, and like if you become Miss America or whatever, the alumni, the previous Miss Americas who are also connected can probably also there's probably like a network of people who can help you get stuff if you get to those levels, right?
I could see that. Yeah, if you get to those levels, but that's like upper echelon. So anyway, sorry, that's a lot of digressions here at the beginning. Welcome to T-Series. I'm drinking unbranded Diet Soda X in a blue mug.
I have my weekend at Singapore, and you can join us on #GTeaLive on Twitter. There we go. Matthew, that's a happy face made out of teacups. Maybe it's an angry face? Is it a sad face? Is it crying?
It's a neutral
oh my gosh.
face. Is it with a tea leaf? Is that a tea leaf?
It is a tea leaf.
Chris, you're so cute. Chris's metaphorical tea face.
Tea face.
Tea face.
Pose. Half a T pose. Full T pose.
So we're going to get started. So what's our starter tea? What's our first starter tea?
Let's see. What do we got going on?
Well, let's start at the top. Let's start with the biggest number in the room, 100 million. Congratulations to PewDiePie for hitting 100 million subscribers. Yeah. It's sort of an unbelievable, it's an unfathomable number of people.
That's a large number of people.
Yeah, it's just massive. And
I should have looked up how many countries. Shoot, darn it. And now I don't have internet access. How many countries 100 million people is larger than?
Ooh,
take your bets in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. 100 million. How many countries have populations over 100 million people? Stephanie's going to look it up right now.
Yeah.
do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Oh boy.
Dude.
Okay, so the cutoff.
So
wow. Okay.
So out of how many countries? So do you have the full list?
Yeah.
How many countries are there in the world right now?
So there are the total lists, which includes some like weird territories like the Holy See,
which is the Vatican, right?
Yeah.
We've been to the Vatican. That's one country checked off the list. Country.
Of the 235 that are on the list,
how many million? Let's.
Okay.
So you guys, I hope you've had enough time to put your guesses in the chat.
How many of those 235?
Chris, how many countries out of 235 have populations over 100 million people?
Let's.
No pressure, buddy.
Right.
Let's guess. How many countries have over 100 million?
Greater
100
than
million?
or equal to 100 million people.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 10.
Okay.
Huh, that is a very small number.
Yeah. All right.
I wish Jason were here. Jason! Jason's gone.
Okay.
Shoot.
T doesn't care about us anymore anyway.
And literally everyone else has left today because they were sick.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Oh
they
my
all had
gosh.
fevers this morning. We tried to tell them all not to come in, but they didn't get the
No.
messages until they were here.
Is there like a Team Theorist plague going on?
There's a plague going
Oh, no.
around. The plague, the plague.
Jeez. Okay.
Okay, so
Chris
how
is our
many?
only stand-in. So, of 235 listed countries, only 14 of them have populations of over 100 million. So Egypt is the closest with 100,388,073 people at last count.
That means that PewDiePie is the 15th largest country in the world.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
That's insane. Oh, look who it is.
Oh,
Look who decided to sprint
Jason.
into the room.
How many? How many were you
What's
gonna
your guess?
I was gonna say 12.
Oh, okay.
So Chris was like really close to mine.
Yeah.
Okay, 12 and
It was
10.
14. You guys were both really close. I know. You guys were both close.
I'm impressed that you guys got that close.
I know. I would have said like 20 or 30.
So they know their populations, but they definitely don't know how to floss. So take that for what
Jason
it is.
also really doesn't know where Florida is, so
Basic geography escapes Jason. But yeah,
Where's
so that
Cape
makes
Canaveral, Jason?
so that
Where
makes
is it?
yeah, so that makes PewDiePie 15th largest country in the world, which is cool and crazy and well deserved. And I've been thinking about doing a video. I'm debating this. You can let me know in the chat what you think I should do. I've been debating whether or not to do a How PewDiePie Conquered YouTube video again, like the original one that I did, but because my old one he really doesn't like, this is the new one that's all very like congratulatory and like, hey, look at how smart he was in building and kind of growing and evolving his career over time. And then as a show of like respect / like, I don't know, as like a appreciative gift or whatever, like, hey, that old one goes away and here's kind of like the new one.
We'll have to see how many views that old one is still getting.
I don't know. I like that old one too.
Is it still monetized? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we
I
do
thought that
it.
would be nice.
Um,
Because I like honestly, here's the thing. Like, yeah, I've done plenty of videos where I like, that was probably not a joke he should have made, or like, let's use this to analyze a greater thing about like comedy or whatever.
yeah,
but
we've
at the end-
dished on him a few times.
I mean, we've
too.
dished, but at the
It's
same
fine.
time, and I've said it here on T-Series a bunch, right? Like, you can be a fan of someone and their work, but not necessarily agree with every single thing that they've done. And I think with
even Jack has expressed that in the past with some of PewDiePie's controversies. Like, hey, you can be friends with someone and still call them on it when they're out of line.
And honestly, this is one of those things where like I think that the stuff that he does, especially now, especially with the meme review stuff, like I think like maybe 2 years ago, that stuff wasn't really up my alley. But I get why it worked, and I get why a lot of people were really excited by it. But I think like in the last like year and a half or whatever, there's been kind of like this resurgence with the T-Series stuff and with like the meme review stuff, and like there's been a lot of, he's been really good at setting cultural trends and moving before his audience gets tired of what he's doing, which is constantly getting him new audiences, keeping him fresh and relevant. And I think it's just smart. Like, that's the thing. I think that he is smart, and yeah, there's been a couple of like hiccups and hurdles along the way, but like it's well deserved. So good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Like, really, it's
and
great.
The chat is very supportive of doing a video like that. I love this idea. Do it.
Right,
Yeah.
because I do, like, here's the thing, right? We do videos on like a lot of creators a lot of times, and talking about different things. Like, we're in the middle of this ninja thing, right, where we released part 1 of the game theory about like the ninja mixer deal last weekend. We have the next one coming out on Thursday to kind of round that out. And so we, us commenting on other YouTubers or what they're doing, or the way their businesses are run and things like that, that's pretty regular fodder on film theory and game theory. And rarely are people upset by the stuff that we said, or we tend to try to keep things pretty positive and pretty neutral, and very research based. And it's always kind of like been sad or a bummer to me that Pewds really doesn't like that one video, and
or maybe all of them.
I mean, yeah, but that's always the one that he called, like in past videos, he's called out that one as like, that one bothers me because it seems to attribute my success to me gaming a system when I didn't. And I think there's a lot of factors at play, and to think that
None of us on YouTube can attribute our success entirely to ourselves is the thing.
I agree with that.
The thing
100%.
is, the machine decides a lot. and your timing and what's popular and what you're covering and what YouTube as a machine learning algorithm prioritizes dictates a lot of your success. And yes, the people with great personalities tend to rise through those ranks, but no online creator can go online and say, I made myself entirely. My success can only be attributed to me. Your success is attributable to, in large part, the platform that you're on. I'm sorry, that's just the way I think it is.
Well, no, and I think that's largely true, right? Where like
I just think that like it's important for online creators, especially all like talent or whatever, but online creators to not like there are a lot of stories that you hear about people with very big egos, and it's like, man, you were in the right place at the right time, and yeah, thank goodness that people liked you. But
you're not talking about some of the stuff. Man, you're really dishing tea today. Wow. Yikes. No one knows who you're talking about. But that was disappointing to hear. We learned earlier today that someone who we thought was good might not be as good as we had hoped. So,
just keep a level head. Just don't get a big ego.
But anyway, yikes. Wow, it's uncomfortable here today. It's hot and I'm not even in that heavy leather jacket anymore. No, and I agree 100%. Like, it's right place, right time, right content. And I think you talk to any gaming creator from the past 2 years who wasn't playing Fortnite, and all of them are like, oh my gosh, the last like year and a half has sucked. It's been so hard because all that anyone cares about is Fortnite. And in general, gaming is a thing that is, being deprioritized or not as visible across YouTube. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that's a big macro example of exactly what you just described, Steph, where like, the platform and the interests of Google and YouTube shifted away from gaming. So it's like, oh, well, goodbye gaming. And it suffers from a view count. It suffers from a promotional count, this and that. So, but the long story short is like, at no point was I ever meaning to like diminish what Felix has done. And so for that video to kind of like serve as like a rankle under his skin or like that's sad for me. And so I'd like to do something that kind of like offers a new or more balanced perspective, I guess, or I don't know, something that's, I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm
We'll see how it plays out. We're excited. Okay. So we have some other brief stories here, like this story from last night at the VMAs, which are the Video Music Awards, which are hosted by MTV.
What's MTV?
I know. It's one of those antiquated broadcasting systems of yore. No.
I probably shouldn't make that joke since we consult them.
No, we actually really like a lot of the people who work on the MTV team.
We do.
That said, the VMAs have like all of the most relevant like, creators, celebrities. They've got like an amazing guest list. And they are also known for people showing up in really wild outfits. That's like a thing that the VMAs are known for. What year was it that Britney Spears did the snake that Tana just copied?
2002? 2003? Chris? 2003?
Can you fact check us, Chris?
2001.
2001. Oh my God.
So close.
So in 2001, for instance, Britney Spears wore a snake to the VMA's red carpet, where she walked down the runway with a giant like yellow python or something around her shoulders. Last night, Tana Mongeau did a riff on that by also carrying a live snake down the red carpet. But the difference between 2001 and 2019 is apparently
it's
that
a very
people
small graphic there, Chris.
Don't.
if you can zoom into the bottom left-hand corner of your screens, you'll see the headline. Oh, there. Oh, it's starting to get slightly bigger. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Okay, and in case you're watching.
There it is, right there.
There it is. Perfect.
That's the perfect place.
Placement is perfect.
Cover up that gross thing underneath. Apparently, my hair is terrible, so if you could put it like right here.
Cover up that guy from Boy Meets World that's showing on the screen.
Here, there.
Okay, great. Chris has just placed the graphic directly onto Matthew's head like a crown.
That's about right.
So apparently, the difference between 2001 and 2019 is that people are no longer okay with wearing live animals on a red carpet. She received a lot of backlash for this. First of all, for not being at the level of Britney Spears to pull something like this off, being like, honey, you're not Britney Spears. Like, this is not a thing that you should be doing. Come on. Like, Britney's the queen. But also, this is a live animal, and now we kind of consider that animal cruelty. Like, you shouldn't do that. And, goodness knows where she got that thing.
That's interesting. That's a really interesting dilemma. I'm curious to discuss that, actually. I didn't really know too much about this story walking into the couch today, and Chris filled me in a little bit beforehand.
It's the two-pronged, you're not Britney, so you don't have a right to do this, and two, be nicer to animals.
Yeah, it's interesting. So let us know in the chat and on Twitter what your thoughts are on this story. To me, it's really interesting, right? I think the difference in 17 years? Oh my gosh, 17 years between when Britney did it and now. I think that's a long time, and obviously like tastes and trends and what is acceptable has changed a lot. So to hear people getting upset about the snake now when they weren't back in the day, that makes total sense to me. Like, I see that. I can see how people would see wearing a live snake as animal cruelty would be a thing. That being said, at least it was live and not like snake skin. Like, it's I don't know. It's
right. Is that better than wearing a dress made entirely of snake skin?
Or if
is
you're
that
like
a thing?
Lady Gaga wearing a dress of meat.
That was all. I don't think you could really do that anymore either. I think you'd have a lot of like vegan protesting.
Yeah, food waste.
Jordan Robinson poses an interesting question in the chat. Does that mean only Britney can do that? So I think that if Britney were to do that again, like today, I think that would also be unacceptable. I think it's like a right place, right time thing. Britney is no longer relevant in that way, but also the wearing of animals in general is just not considered kosher.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that in 2002, regardless of whatever celebrity you were, if you had the right brand, you could get away with it, right? Because it had never been done before, or at least not in kind of like recent memory or in popular culture or whatever. And so people are like, wow, that's really cool and edgy and cool, and the idea of animals being like their own independent beings existed, but maybe not for snakes. Like what is acceptable has changed so much that I don't think that I feel like any celebrity couldn't really pull that off nowadays, or at least would get some level of backlash. Now, would it be as much backlash as like, here's digital influencer X doing it, so let's hate on her? Probably, like if Lady Gaga were, like you just said, if Lady Gaga were to wear a dress of meat like she did, when was that even? I don't even know. But like that was a big deal where she wore literally a dress of like raw meat hanging off of her body, right? And everyone's like, the meat dress. And I don't think it got too much. To my memory, it didn't get
too much backlash, other than the fact that like the commentary was more in jest, like, hey, wouldn't that smell?
Yeah, it was more funny than it was like, that's unethical. Nowadays, I think if she were to do that same thing, even though she's a huge celebrity who's known for doing wacky, crazy things, I feel like, you would still see some level of pushback, backlash around that. So I think just what is and isn't ethical has fundamentally changed
now
in 2019. So I think that's my opinion. I'm curious. What do you think, Steph?
I also agree. And interestingly, on the flip side of this, one that I'm really curious about is Nikita Dragun's choice. It's Dragun?
I mean,
Dragon,
yeah.
Nikita Dragun. Okay. Her choice to
Dragoon
have 3 men on leashes follow her down the red carpet and have them like chained to her. And I think
like behind her, in front of her?
Like on leashes. She was like holding them next to her while pictures were being taken of her on the red carpet.
Okay.
So this, I think, is also one of those things where I think we're at like a fine balance line right now, and because she's a girl, it's okay. But I also think that, maybe in 10 years when we are, I'm struggling with this one.
This is a hard one.
Because on the one hand, I'm like, oh, I get it. It's a joke, and she's a trans woman, and so I think it's an interesting statement. But on the other side, I also see it being the kind of thing where I think we're pushing toward a society where it's just not okay to put people on leashes, and that's just not cool. And treating anyone like they're a subservient in a public way that doesn't feel like fun and consenting is not a thing that, it is maybe just not a thing we should do.
I'm so confused. I hear that, like, I don't know.
I don't know if I'm even qualified to comment on this.
That's right. I'm confused.
But it's, you know, and Nikita's always been like super nice to us and stuff. Like she's fine. But it's, I just don't know. I don't know if that is something that's also going to be not okay in like 10 years.
But I think that's ultimately the thing, right? Is this idea of, hey, Tana, after 17 years, decided to be the next person at a VMA event to wear a snake, right?
Yeah.
Someone has to be the first person to do that thing and it to be wrong. Honestly, like, and so how do you know where, like, what, maybe if she had worn a snake in 2018, it would have been okay, but in when ethical things change and become the popular new norm is really hard to know and really hard to track, right?
And it's also
like,
context-based. Like, some things that start on the internet don't make it into the mainstream for quite a while. It's very interesting.
It's just so complex. Like, and I think that's one of the things that you see a lot of people just across the board being frustrated about overall is the idea of, like, it's unclear what jokes, what fashions, what things are acceptable and not, and which ones are going to get like a couple people, like anything you do is always going to get a couple people angry on Twitter, but like sometimes there are the things that get a lot of, and when that shifts and how do you manage it, it's hard to know, because unless you are an active part of the community that's being offended by that thing, to the outside world, you're not constantly checking in on that stuff. And so if all of a sudden you step on that line
and you don't realize that the ground has changed under you, you know,
right,
the ground,
like,
the earth has shifted.
There needs to be a website
where you
that,
can
like,
check
just,
what is socially acceptable.
Like, hey,
is this okay?
Because here's the thing, right? Both Nikita and Tana are brands, people who are built on the idea of being dramatic
and edgy,
and on being edgy and being controversial and risque, right? So,
and nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
all
fine.
for it. Like,
good.
In precursors to them, like Michael Jackson, Madonna, Janet Jackson, all, like, there are tons of people who have made their brands on being forward thinking, on being avant-garde, edgy, whatever you want to call it, and
Michael
and
Jackson's
we respect
edginess.
Them. No, I mean like early, you know.
No,
I'm not talking about his allegations and stuff.
No, but like,
I'm talking about his costume choices.
Sure, it's just one of those things. Like, it's funny to look at the edginess that he would be considered. Now it's like, oh yeah, he did a movie, he danced backwards.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No, so that's the thing. But but I feel like if there was a website somewhere that was like, hey, because I don't think many people intend to outright be offensive, right? I think more often than not, it's
a mistake.
It's an honest mistake or an accidental thing, and so it's like, hey, I'm sorry that happened. If I had known better, I would have done the thing, you know, like it's, and just on the internet, things change with the flip of a switch, the drop of a hat, whatever. Like a great example of this, right, is the idea of Night in the Woods, and this literally just popped up on my Twitter not too long ago, but apparently a woman has come out saying stuff about, like, one of the people who was associated with Night in the Woods, which, had I not been on Twitter in this one moment right now, right before the live stream, I wouldn't have been familiar that, like, now there's allegations about this one person who worked on this game that a lot of people have requested us to play on GTeaLive. And so had I not seen that tweet, but people do request us to play the game, like, if we play the game, then I don't know. Like, how would you... Is that okay? Yeah. There's so much stuff to keep track of.
Yeah.
And there's no way to actually be aware of all of that. It's a really hard game to play, and the thing is, like, we would just be doing it because people wanted us to play the game, but we don't know the backstory. It's funny because to go back to PewDiePie, like, I think he did a series, or there was one video that again got him in hot water, because when you're as big as he is, like, you make one wrong move and they'll just jump on you. But he made a video where he's like, hey, here are some creators that I like, right? And one of the creators in past videos had, like, made controversial or kind of, like, racist or dangerous statements or whatever. And, you know, Pewds is like, I just liked his, you know, his one video on this one topic. Like, I don't know all the stuff that he's ever done ever, period. And that's, like, it's hard, right? In an upcoming in the Ninja episode, I talk a little bit about how I'm gonna start trying to promote some other smaller channels just to share love. It's a very positive thing that I'm trying to just, like, help spread awareness of new channels who are working, or not new channels, but channels who are working really hard and could use a little extra promotion or whatever. But in doing that, I recognize, oh man, I don't know everything about these people. What if they said one thing one time and then all of a sudden people are like, you're supporting this person who did.
Yeah, it's really hard.
But I don't want that fear to ultimately outweigh my desire to do positive or good by like spreading awareness of people who are out there doing good stuff. So it's tough.
It's really tough, and there are actually a lot of opinions about this in the chat, but most of them side on the side of don't wear animals, even if they're your animals, and probably best not to put people on leashes, just in general.
I wasn't planning
society.
On it anytime soon, honestly.
And even if it is like a reference to like fun kinky stuff or whatever, like
I thought it was a reference to Walking Dead.
No, it's not a reference to Walking Dead. They weren't zombie guys. They were just guys.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Didn't mean to offend the non-zombie out there.
So
okay, the other interesting thing about this though, and this is such a stupid story to be talking about for this long, but I think it raises a lot of interesting issues, which is, like you said, you're no Britney Spears, like so you can't wear
anything.
You can't wear a snake. First off, I think it's a bit tacky that like to try and recreate an iconic look by someone else. Like it just feels very recycled and kind of like lazy.
I don't know. I understand it if you want like an homage, but it feels more appropriate for a musician to do an homage to another musician rather than random social star to do an homage to one of the most famous musicians of all time.
And one of the most famous like celebrity like awards outfits of all time.
Yeah.
Although Tana, I could see like if done correctly could look like Britney Spears.
And she does kind of like sort of.
I mean, I can see like the blonde and I can see that. But I think that's the other interesting thing is there a threshold at which people can and can't get away with certain things, right? Where does it go from you being quirky and eccentric or failing to pull off a thing that someone more famous than you did?
Here, I'm trying to find a picture of her where she's not sticking out her tongue.
Good luck. but right, where does that size difference happen, right? Of, hey, I am, like Lady Gaga, again, to use the Lady Gaga meat dress debate, I think is an interesting one, right? Where like she was able to pull that off, get away with it because she was a megastar at the time, but like what threshold does it go from like really cool or from really tacky or like in bad taste to really cool? I don't know. It's tough. It's such a sliding spectrum, and so much of I think life and also like brand management when you're in Los Angeles or whatever is like knowing how people react to you well enough that you're able to like walk that balance beam effectively.
Yeah.
I think that's what it ultimately boils down to. It's tough. These are tough gray area questions. When can I wear my fox around, like a live fox around my neck,
It
Stephanie?
just yips down
Is
all
that
the way
what the
down
fox
the red
says?
carpet. Yip, 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 yip. Yip, 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 yip. Copyright strike. All right.
Yeah, it's gone. Sorry. There went all the money out the window. You're welcome, Ilvis. That's who did.
Okay.
That's who did.
I'll
What does the fox say?
one more sip of starter tea here really quick.
Wow, we're still
which
at starter tea,
you
45. This is
You
rough.
don't know this one, I don't think, which is the celebrities who reposted a hoax memo on Instagram. So I'll tell Matthew and you guys
Great,
about this one at
I'm
the same
excited to
time.
learn about this
So
one.
basically there was a quote unquote privacy statement that you are supposed to post to your the hoax was that you were supposed to post it to your Instagram account, and that would make sure that Instagram didn't own the photos that you posted on Instagram. And it was basically a statement that said anything that I post on this platform is mine, and I don't consent to it being copied or used for whatever. Like, I own the copyright to my photos. And there were a bunch of people who thought
That this was
that
legit.
was actually a thing that you could do, and that was somehow a legitimate memo that you should and could post on Instagram.
Oh, that's brilliant.
It was ridiculous. I actually saw several people who did this, or like they would, someone who also put it in their Instagram stories. I put up a memo once that lasted for 24 hours and then disappeared on my Instagram page. I've got my copyright on lock, you guys. And it was just one of those moments.
Today makes me so tired.
I know. It was just one of those moments that really highlights the differences. I think part of it's a generational difference between what people will fall for on the internet. And you hear a lot about like hoax hoax messages going around a lot on Facebook, and I think that's because Facebook garners a lot of older audience, like, you know, people who are grandparents and who are in their like some 40s, 50s, 60s and up, and who just aren't as familiar with the way that these platforms work, and so they believe a lot of the stuff that they see that ends up being a hoax. But it was just one of those moments where you're like, oh man, oh come on now, just apply some logic somewhere.
But yes and no. Like, it's interesting, right? To you and I, right? It seems like an obvious thing because we live and breathe, you know, all of the like minutia. Let's look at the wrinkles of online video and figure out ways to iron them out, talk about them, do episodes on it, whatever. To a lot of people, though, I can totally see, like, hey, post this to your Instagram, and it tells Instagram that you don't have ownership of. Like, I see that as a possibility. I think in the first place, if you're really concerned about that, you better be reading the terms and services of the app, that the permissions that you're giving. Like, that to me, I think is the funny part about this, is you're attracting people who are concerned enough that they're willing to post something false in their timeline. Like, okay, oh man, I don't want Instagram to have my rights over this or whatever. I'm not relinquishing it. Let me post this. Let me read this like one-page memo and post it or whatever. But aren't so concerned or aren't concerned enough that they're reading the terms and services of the platform that they're on in the first place. Which, don't get me wrong, I get those terms and services are egregiously long and complicated.
Terms of service. Terms, TOS.
Terms and service.
Terms of service.
Terms all service.
Terms of service.
Terms and service and contracts. All the terms and all the service.
Matthew's not even concerned enough to read what they're actually
Prepositions
called.
are crap. Like, who cares about effing prepositions? No, right? It's a preposition of.
Yeah.
Right? Good, thank you.
That's good.
Parts of speech, they're the best.
Parts of speech are also lame.
Calling the parts of speech.
It's parts and speech.
Well played. Well, get over
Point
here and get
to
a handshake,
Chris.
Chris.
Point to
Chris, you need a hand. That was
lovely.
That was well done.
That was very nice.
That was well done. That was good. But I think that's the grand irony of this whole thing is the idea that, hey, I'm just giving everyone permission to do whatever by saying yes, let me just post my photos faster. But no, the buck stops here. Let me throw this up. But I do think, though, it does show how confusing and difficult to navigate a lot of digital rights are, and how easy it is to disseminate false knowledge.
And I mean the same goes. I follow like all of the YouTube accounts, and especially even the ones where people are complaining a lot about YouTube, and YouTube is like responding to them and stuff. And actually, I see pretty frequently things pop up where people have fallen for a phishing email that looks like YouTube, but it asks for your login information and it asks for all of this information about you. It's clearly intended to hack your account. And like if we read it, we'd be like, oh, dismiss that immediately, delete it. Hopefully, oh my gosh, right? I mean, the thing is, spoofing, hacking, and we'll talk about this in the next story. It's actually segues really well, but that can be done at all levels, right? So anyone can fall for this, but a lot of times YouTube is like responding to people being like, no, that's a phishing email. That didn't really come from us. Like, but without checking with the platform, how would you know? And I think it is easy when you see a logo that looks like, oh, it's YouTube. Oh, it's official. I better pay attention. You just slap a logo on anything and people will believe it.
Well, even stupid stuff like bills, and this is worth calling out, right? Like, I don't know how many of you watching are old enough to get bills in the mail on a regular basis.
Oh, it
but
sucks. I hate the mail.
It sucks. The mail goes from something you're excited by because it's like, oh man, maybe grandma and grandpa sent me like a greeting card, this week or something, to now all of a sudden it's like, oh, old Papa California Edison is asking for more money.
God, I hate the mail.
But the thing is, people will artificially create bills that look fake, they're fake bills that look urgent, overdue notice, blah, 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 this and that. and they're fake, right? But on the outside, it's like red stamp, last chance, overdue, blah, blah, blah. And you see it and your heart stops, right? You're like, oh my gosh, what did I forget? What did I do? And especially for us where there's so many things that we're like having to juggle at any given point in time. And it's just like,
it's like, oh no, what fell through the cracks?
Yeah, what fell through the cracks? How did I miss this? And now all of a sudden, like, it could be.
Is it going to ruin my credit score?
100%.
Like, what is it?
All of that stuff.
But you open it up and it's a hoax, and it's someone trying to offer you a credit card or something. It's so dumb.
Or it looks legit. The worst case is when it looks legit, but you look it up and you're like, what is this? Like, I get a weird feeling of this. Let me look up online, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a hoax. And you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like,
it's
how are
terrible.
people able to get away with this? Or like, oh, this isn't required of you when you start your own business. Like, that was one when we first started our business, like, and made Theorist a thing because you kind of have to at a certain point. Just for like,
we've had it's been a it's been a business for like years.
Yeah, but it's for like paycheck purposes and safety of your own personal accounts. Like, there's a lot of reasons that it has to kind of go that way.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that as soon as you start that business, you get inundated with a bunch of stuff, and you're like, I'm a new business owner now. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do, you know? And all of a sudden you're getting hit with like, do you have your hazard posters that are legally mandated to be posted at every exit of your building? And you're like,
hazard posters.
And you're like, what? What is this? And they're like, for a low price, for $72, you can get your legally mandated hazard posters.
And you look it up, and there's nothing. That's not real. It's like, but you just don't know, right? And you're 25 and you're starting your own business and you have no idea. So it's very weird.
Yeah, so that's very accurate. So phishing is scary and very real. And speaking of spoofing and phishing, Steph.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, the big story here is the YouTubers who were hacked over the weekend. James Charles, King Batch, others who were all SIM spoofed, which if you're not familiar with it, is basically where someone calls up a company. In this case, it was AT&T. They call up AT&T and they pretend to be like James Charles or King Batch, and they give enough information.
Hello, my name is Batch. First name King Batch.
But they managed to give enough information to the person on the other end that the person's like, oh, okay, I believe that you are who you say you are. And then they make all sorts of changes within that person's account. And so they get access to their phone numbers, all their records, who they're calling, their text message records. And then ultimately what they do is they sort of, I guess, I don't exactly know how it works, but they reroute data through a SIM card that they own, which is why it's called SIM spoofing, because it's not really a SIM card that's in the right phone or that belongs to the person that it should belong to. And from there, they're able to lift all kinds of data, including things like pictures, sensitive information, all sorts of private messages, stuff like that. And so some stuff has started to surface from people like James Charles and I think Shane Dawson and a few other people. And so if that weren't a big enough problem in and of itself, James Charles decided that in order to basically head off the problem, in case someone decided to leak sensitive photos, I guess he has some nudes and stuff like on his phone. I
thought he only had one. Isn't that the whole takeaway of this whole thing?
Maybe. He decided to post it himself. So he posted a nude photo on Twitter. And so we can talk about
against terms and service.
We can talk about the
terms and services.
It's not against the terms and services, but it's against the terms of service.
Is that a different thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very subtle.
Is it against only the terms or only the service or just the terms of service?
Wow. You're really diligent. I don't know.
Okay. Well, cool.
So we can talk about the whole like SIM spoofing is like fascinating to talk about in and of itself, but also sort of the response to James Charles posting his nude and him getting some backlash because he has children are his like primary fan base, very young people, and a large contingent of his followers, and he's posting nudes that they could see.
That's weird. So the interesting thing about the first part of the story, I think,
Yeah.
which is the hacking bit or kind of like the spoofing
Yeah, we
bit.
can talk about all this stuff.
Man, so many multifaceted stories today on
know.
GTeaLive. Truly, the tea is hot, and we're ready to spill. It's interesting, right? It reminds me a lot of the conversations that we had with the hackers during Game Lab. So first off, for those of you who don't know, Game Lab is becoming free for you guys to watch.
At
September?
End of September.
What, middle of September, right?
Yes!
End of September.
End
I'm
of September.
so excited
So
about
so
that.
YouTube Originals is a lot of like historic YouTube Original shows like Game Lab, which has historically been behind a paywall gate except for 2 episodes. Those are becoming free at the end of September, which is super exciting. And if you've never seen the episodes, you can watch the whole thing. It's great. We worked really hard on it. It holds up surprisingly well to this day. Like I watched a couple episodes the other day. I'm like, wow, this is still pretty good. But one of them is us working with hackers, right, in honor of Watch Dogs, and recreating like hacks that you do in the game or whatever. And the one thing that the hackers said is like, yeah, they can do a bunch of Google searching to find like the passwords and codes and defaults settings and this and that for whatever program they're looking at hacking into. They said themselves like Google is a hacker's best friend. Quite honestly, it's their best tool in their toolkit. But they said a lot of times it's not so much about hacking a system or a code. Like that's the least of their issues. The easiest thing to hack is other humans and our tendency to want to say yes and our tendency to be agreeable and to want to be helpful, right? And so like when they're hired on by companies to like pressure test or do penetration testing for any possible like loopholes or errors in their system, they tend to like focus most of their efforts on getting the people to give up the critical information or allow them access in ways that, you know, they probably shouldn't have, right? So everything, it's all this social manipulation stuff of calling up and just being persistent enough to get the person on the other end of the line to be like, oh, yeah, I will help you. Or calling up enough times to get the one person who doesn't follow protocol properly and lets you through the door, right? And gets you kind of that first piece of information where now all of a sudden it's dominoes falling, right? Like I got one password for one site, which then got me access to like an email or whatever, which then got me other stuff down the line. And it's fascinating, right? Like social hacking is the most dangerous part of hacking. And so like you can have all the safety systems in the world, but if the door is key code protected and you're just holding it open to be polite for the person who's walking right behind you, that security measure is now invalid, right? And that's what, you know, it's that mentality that a lot of these hackers are exploiting and, you know, finding success in.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And I think a lot of people are very excited about Game Lab coming out from behind
right?
the paywall.
It's super exciting. I'm so stoked about it.
At Game Theory Zone at the end of September, Game Lab will be free for a while. So excited. There are a lot of other people. Yes, Game Lab will be free. That's Marco on Twitter. Finally get to see Game Lab. Hyped, says Tana 0316. Can't wait for the end of September, says at
Good.
Steph
I'm so
Edits.
glad you guys are excited.
Yes, Game Lab is coming, says at LGTeaLive. And at Ruby Moon 7196 says, I hate how I just got here and the first thing I'm hearing about is JC Nudes. I do not need this.
Tarnished Dragon,
Amen.
you can see Game Lab. Yeah, no,
Yes.
it's super exciting. I'm really happy that they're making this decision. It seems like YouTube Originals is leaning more into just ad-supported stuff, like, you know, fewer and fewer paywall gated things. Because we've been talking to them about potentially doing something else, but this time it would be free to view.
Yeah.
And it would just be, you know, they would have an ad in like a normal show, like a normal YouTube video, which makes sense. But
Right, exactly. Yeah, so, okay. So the hacking is obviously the negative part of this. There were some other interesting virally, quote unquote, kind of things that came out of this, though. One was the memeability of the Share My Nudes movement. And I don't know if you want to comment at all on the like, hey, should you be sharing a nude when you know that your audience is pretty young, or even if you're not sure that your audience is pretty young? It's like, Yeah, I see both sides of it. The idea is that you get out ahead of it, you own your own story, all of that stuff. James is certainly not the first person who's taken that stance, and it can, I'm sure, feel incredibly disempowering to have to have all of your files and information at someone else's mercy. So anyway, that's a thing in and of itself. But everyone started memeing this moment, which is also pretty funny. Boogie, I think, put up a quote-unquote nude where he's not nude. Ethan Klein put up a nude where he's, like, definitely nude, but you don't see everything. And I think
I'm so tired again. Why am I so tired in this live stream?
And many others also followed suit. So it became, it went from a thing that's like, hey, this is scary and controversial, to, hey, this is something that we can at least all sort of communally laugh about. Which, if there's a good part of that story, it's that, I think.
Do you post a nude?
Do you post a nude to get out ahead of it? I feel like we've had this discussion before. I don't know.
No. Question mark? No.
Is it flattering? Is it a flattering nude? Is it like a boudoir photo, or is it like, whoa, I accidentally snapped myself coming out of the shower yesterday morning? Which, how would you ever do that? But like, is that...
I bet it's happened many a time, especially now that phones are waterproof. I bet it happens frequently. I would not be surprised in the slightest about how frequent that happens, honestly.
I think I don't want to go too far into the gray area, but I think it depends on if it's compromising or not. I'm also saying this as someone who doesn't have any nudes. Like, I wouldn't store something like that on my phone. I don't have any. So
right, and we have talked about that before.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not, like, why would you do it in the first place?
There are plenty of unflattering photos that I'd rather not get out there, but that's just because I have big circles under my eyes because it was like the first 4 months that Ollie was born, or the light hits you the wrong way. You don't want those getting out there, but that's different.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think that if you have a young audience, you got to be careful about that sort of thing. It's also weird because if all of a sudden you tweet it out, now all of a sudden you're drawing attention to the issue rather than letting it kind of like either play out in the background or kind of drift away with time. So I don't know. That's a tough call. I mean, fortunately, we're not in that position where we have to worry about it, but that's tough. That's a tough one. How you handle that sort of thing and how you handle a lot of these sorts of online issues, I think, is always one of those areas where it's hard for me to kind of like predict what the right action is in a lot of cases. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on that one. Chris, would you post your scantily clad photo?
No.
Right?
I don't think I
would
would
not.
either.
Right? I don't think so either.
I treat it like you pay your credit card bill, Someone's got your nudes, and if you post it, then you did it too early. And if you don't post it, then maybe they won't. It's kind of like if you pay your credit card bill right away, great, now you don't have it hanging over your head, but also you lost all that money you could have been spending on other stuff in the interim, as opposed to paying it right before it's due.
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
What
Chris,
is this line of logic?
Chris, how are you treating your credit? I'm very concerned for
Yeah,
your financial well-being.
Yeah,
right
your
now.
credit score is something that I'm suddenly very alarmed about.
You're blowing your credit card money on all this other stuff. Oh man.
So wait,
You just pay it close to the due date, because why would I cause myself the harm of that payment sooner than I need to?
So that way you have your responsibility squared away early, so that way you can move forward into your future spending for the rest of the month with a clear conscience and not having to worry about it.
I mean, I understand like not paying bills excessively early. People do this with taxes too. They're like, why would I pay the government early? It's like giving them an interest-free loan until the money is actually due.
I think you're overthinking things at that point.
No,
I feel like that's how it is. I mean,
think people think that way.
I'd pay on the second paycheck of the month, not the first,
Yeah. You just pay closer to the day it's due. But you don't spend the money that you were going to use for that bill on just other stuff.
Well, you don't spend the money you were going to use for that bill, but you also don't let them just like have it early,
See, I hate stuff hanging over my head. Like, I like paying it off as quickly as possible. Get it out. Get it out the door. I have enough other things in my life to worry about. Like, because, like, why would I want to hold on to this chunk of, like, I know I can't spend it, and I know I need to hold it for this one. Why wouldn't I just, like, get rid of it?
Matthew would put a down payment on Ollie's college now.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely, I would.
He'd be like, let's just spend it now.
Get rid of it. Absolutely. If you could, right? If you have the money and you could, I don't know. Like, if you could have all, like, I've said this before, and this is maybe a little bit of a digression or not really that related, but one of the things I've said is if there was ever a company, like a restaurant, like I know Olive Garden just did this for a day, where they were giving away like it was almost like a sweepstakes for like 100 lifetime passes of their of Olive Garden, and I think it's like,
pasta passes. You
yeah,
guys.
lifetime
it
pasta
was
pass.
real.
It was they were
Sort
like
of.
giving away like they were selling 10,000 for the rest of the year or something like
Yeah.
that, and then of the 10,000, the first 100 people
Would
had
be
the option
eligible.
of upgrading to a lifetime pass.
And it was not that expensive either. It was like $500 or something.
Yeah, it was definitely
which is
like
$500 is a lot of money, but it's a lifetime of pasta
right. And so the thing I've said is like
and probably a lifetime of diabetes.
if a restaurant ever like or like a food brand or whatever ever wanted to do a deal with us and didn't want to like pay with money, but like would pay with like here's a platinum card to Taco Bell.
Oh my gosh. I feel like that's something Taco Bell would do too.
Right, and I said Taco Bell for a reason because I think Taco Bell, of all the companies that I can like fast food companies, they're the ones who would do it.
Your lifetime taco pass.
Yeah, 100%. And like, what's it cost them? Not a whole lot.
Nah.
But for me to know that I could lose a job, I could lose literally everything, right?
And you could still
But
get
I would
a
have a
taco.
pasta. But yeah, I could
Yeah.
still like one of your basic life necessities that never goes away until the day that you die. Like you are set for life.
I know. That is kind of amazing.
That's such a reassuring feeling.
Aw, Matthew, it's okay.
Like for instance,
I don't think you're gonna starve. We'll try to make sure you don't starve.
But
It's okay.
I'm just saying it's one of those things that like, speaking of those worries or those just constant like small little things that you always got to think about as a human, like, and sure, you might not want Taco Bell every single day, but you could have it, and if you needed it, you would have it. Right? Like Stephanie and I, we've talked repeatedly about how poor we were when we were living in New York, and
I
like,
feel like this is a good reason to not pay your credit card at the beginning of the bill cycle, though. Because if you pay it, that's money you don't have anymore. And if you need it, you don't have it.
You didn't have it in the first
you never
place.
you spend it in the credit card.
Credit is not a real
Yeah, but
money.
you,
You know,
like,
it's just
Credit is you going
Those
into
are just
need.
numbers.
That's
You could
negative
need
numbers.
money at the beginning of the month and then figure out how to get the money to pay
No,
off
there's
your credit
no.
card
You
bill
should
at the
never
end of the
spend
month.
money on a credit card where you're gonna be like, I'm gonna
You don't-
figure
no, you
out
don't
how to
figure
pay
it
this
out,
later.
buddy.
That's like an
the
emergency
scenario I'm
thing that
talking
people
about is
do.
not you planning to be in debt, but you could end up in a scenario where you need to spend money.
Taco
So
Bell,
worried
please
about
give me an
Chris.
infinite taco pass.
Just so we can make sure that Chris doesn't starve.
The other great thing about an infinite taco pass, let's really do this, is all of a sudden now too, you can pay it forward to so many people. Like say it's like, hey, you get like 3 tacos a day. Like, and you have to have a limit, right? Otherwise, like a person's gonna go in and be like, I'm just giving away free tacos forever.
It's not the whole menu either. You could just do tacos.
Yeah, like here's like your 3 taco. Yeah, here's your like daily allotment of whatever. Like, which is awesome, but you could pay it forward, right? You can just go to like, hey, I'm driving past a Taco Bell. Let me just find someone in line. Boom, 3 tacos. There you go, and
Yeah.
that's it. And like,
And
yes,
then you just buy some nachos that day, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm mixing it up crazy.
right, but it's great, and all of a sudden, you know, like, no longer is it it's just like you're not losing anything because you're not like paying out of pocket or whatever, and it's just like an infinite ability to do good out in the world. That's awesome. I like it. Please give me an infinite taco pass.
Oh my
Taco
gosh,
Bell.
we would do such good in the world with an infinite taco pass.
We
would eat a lot.
We
of
would do
tacos.
so much good out in the world. Like, I like that. Infinite taco pass with a large drink every time. That'd be great.
No, I think if you had unlimited large
Olive Garden,
drinks,
if you still have those unlimited pasta passes available,
we
hit us
like
up.
actually considered it. We were like,
I was
should we
ready.
try for this?
I was ready.
Because the thing that they were selling was like for $100 or $200 or something. It was like 8 weeks of unlimited pasta, which if you're gonna go for it, like you could
do damage.
You could
do damage.
To your liver from like eating that much Alfredo sauce. But
is it to your liver?
No, it's more just to your whole body. Your heart is really the one that's gonna struggle with the Alfredo sauce.
If you're chugging down a lot of Alfredo, heart is the thing that's gonna suffer the most.
That's so good.
Liver is more like my
So
Diet
good.
Coke addiction.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. We discover in 20 years that Matthew has cirrhosis, but he doesn't drink any alcohol.
Or superpowers.
Either one. I think the odds are equally likely.
It's a coin flip. That and then my unlimited Alfredo sauce. No, I'm more of a marinara sauce man, so that's even like extra veggies, guys. That's veggie. That's healthy.
And it included the pasta, the sauce, and one topping, so you can get chicken or meatballs or whatever, and salad and a breadsticks.
Right? How could you beat that?
We should be promoting this. We should try and strike up a deal with Olive Garden. I love talking about Olive Garden so much. I just want to go there right now. Can we just go to Olive Garden?
We can.
We can just end this stream early and go to Olive Garden.
We could go to Olive Garden. Do you want to go to Olive Garden?
Do you want to go to Olive Garden tonight?
We could.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks?
We'll have to pay for it, unfortunately. We don't have a card to do it.
That's okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can convince someone while we're there to sponsor us.
Yes. Hey, person at this random Olive Garden, please sponsor us with an unlimited Olive Garden pasta pass.
They're so good. Anyway,
but seriously, that being said, any food brands out there who want to like try this, I think it would be great. Mm-hmm. It also feels Mr. Beastie.
It does.
I feel like this is a very Mr. Beastie thing. Like, Mr. Beastie, he's a Mr. Beastie. It's like, oh, who's my little Mr. Beastie? But it does. It feels like one of his video titles, like, I gave someone a lifetime
supply of pasta. Yeah.
Which honestly, like, Olive Garden, if you're not giving it to us, give it to Mr. Beast. Or better yet, give it to both of us. Because we'll both give you a lot of promotion. But Mr. Beast would then probably be able to like find a way to gift it to someone. And then, and how cool is that?
That's awesome.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
I would just invite a lot of people to join me at Olive Garden.
But
like, honestly,
it
I
wouldn't
would be
cover
like, hey,
everyone.
No, it wouldn't cover everyone. But if like part of the meal's covered, it's like, hey, that could be like our meeting place, and we could like pay for a bunch of people. Like, it'd be great.
We'd be we'd be like the YouTubers who meet at Olive Garden. That would be like our calling card. Oh,
we could be in the back booth. We would be like a mafioso.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh, as if Olive Garden were a real Italian restaurant. That would be amazing.
Stephanie can say that because she's an Italian.
Because I'm Italian.
I personally find it delightful.
I also find it delightful. But when you're selling deep fried lasagna that's cooked like a chicken nugget, that might not be authentic entirely.
Is that not how Grandma Cordato did it, Stephanie? Is that not Grandma's family recipe? So you make your lasagna and then you stick it in the deep fryer.
Yeehaw!
And then you sandwich it between two fried pieces of chicken.
Mamma mia!
and that's what we call
the double down lasagna.
It was the double down. It's actually a Taco Bell. It's a Taco Bell Olive Garden combo.
KFC combo. Yeah, there we go.
The double down lasagna.
Anyway.
Oh, we have gone so far off the rails. The tea that was being spilled.
But Olive Garden, we love you seriously. Okay.
I'm so sorry that we've lost all semblance of talking about relevant issues in the YouTube landscape.
The last part of this James Charles story actually
oh my gosh, there's more? Why is there more?
Actually revolves around, we'll finish up with this and then we'll do like a last drop of tea. So is that all of these hacks happened on AT&T. So everyone is really anti AT&T right now. We are Google Fi people. Woo woo Google Fi.
Woot woot Google Fi. Yes, Google has a phone service for those of you who don't know.
The best.
And it's really good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really good.
I've converted my dad, our parents, cousins, family, friends. Chris, you're on it now too, right?
I sure am.
Yeah, he is. Okay, more free promotion for the random companies today.
Here, everybody.
This is not sponsored. Why?
Why is it not sponsored?
Okay.
Please, someone sponsor this.
Okay. So
no, but Google
everyone's
Fi's great.
really angry at AT&T because of this spoof. Apparently, some of these people, it's not the first time they've been hacked. There's like a really big anti-AT&T movement here. And so I guess a lot of these creators are looking to jump ship. So if you work for another phone company out there, now is your time.
Google better be scooping.
Yeah.
Done got scooped.
Scoop them up.
Done got pelvis first. Done got scooped.
And I mean, King Batch specifically posted a scathing video about how he spent hours on the phone and customer service is terrible and he made like no progress and it was just the most awful experience. And if he is having that much trouble, can you imagine the trouble that like regular schmoes with no backup and manager and lawyers to lobby for them are having?
Yes, I can, because when we first needed internet to do this live stream,
It was miserable.
no one was willing to help us.
I know,
And
it
we
was
had to
terrible.
literally, like, not for a week. And we're like, our business depends on internet service, guys. Why does it take
terrible.
you a week to get out here? And no one would respond to us. And so it wasn't until we were doing The Runner at the time, which was in
Oh my
partnership
gosh,
with
yeah.
Verizon. And so we had a couple of connections at Verizon where we were like, guys, we need internet for our business. Do you know anyone at Verizon that you can like ask for help?
We would call Verizon, and Verizon would literally deny the fact that they had coverage at our address.
And we're like,
and they'd be like, we don't
"Dude."
cover that address. And we'd be like, yes, you do. The previous owners had this service,
need it
and
switched
there's
over.
literally a box on the side of our house with your logo on it. You cover this address. And they were so rude, and they put us through such a runaround. And yeah, we had to call up Verizon like on the Go 90 side, and they had to call someone on like the cellular communication side to trickle over to the
So
internet
stupid.
service
I
provider
hate it.
side to finally send stuff. It was like the biggest backdooring ever.
And the thing
It
is,
was
like,
terrible.
and it's so frustrating to me because it drives me nuts when systems are unfair, and I hate the fact that one, we had to do that in
Yeah.
order to get any help, but two,
I hate the
like,
fact
I
that
hate
we
the fact
did
that
do that.
I
It's, like,
no,
just
I
awful.
hate the fact that like that is a thing. Like it's nice that we have the luxury to be able to do that, but I hate the fact that like that's just an expected thing that has to get done. Like that sucks. I hate being that sort of like Stephanie and I both are very much into, you know, you work hard and you know you try to stay smart and keep your nose clean or whatever, and like
And you don't take advantage of people or systems, and you don't ask for like extra favors from people. And we really don't. And so when that came up, that wasn't even like our idea. Someone else was like, well, have you tried going through Verizon on the Go 90 side? Like it was a whole thing. And we were like, no, come on, that's fine. We'll figure it out. But like literally people are just sometimes really bad at their jobs.
it's just a
sad.
bummer. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like it's sad that that's kind of like the state of things, and that, you know, like you should actually be honest about what you can and can't do, and actually fulfill your job. It's just stuff like that bothers me, and the more and more you hear, and this goes back to like the favoritism stuff that we were talking about last week, 2 weeks ago, when it came to like Twitch and YouTube, right? Where it's like, yes, favoritism exists, but it's just sad that it does. You know, like just make it a fair system. So that way people who are smart can, you know, like figure it out. And I don't know. It's
It's a really hard thing to navigate. And
I'm so tired.
and Matthew needs a nap. And so it's long story short here, I think, is that, you know, hopefully situations like this force companies to do better, right? That's the whole point, is that the more people are vocal about bad experiences they have, the more people will not give the worst companies business and will give the better companies business, and better companies will come along to, you know, continue upping the game. I feel like people providing internet service is going to be one of those things that like is forced to get better and better, and that we're going to get like over a hill with internet service where just everything is on fiber, everything is super fast, you don't have to fight anymore for like really big bandwidths and stuff like that. So I'm waiting for that day. We're just not quite there yet.
I don't know if that day's coming, Steph.
It's coming.
I
It's
don't
coming.
know.
We're going to get there. Google Fiber is in like 10 cities now.
Great. A whopping 10. Wow. Flying off the shelves.
Yeah, it's not here yet. Anyway.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting too, because it's not just like internet service and stuff too, but it was also one of those things where we talk to YouTuber friends and we learn a lot about the entertainment industry and awards. and like award ceremonies and stuff. I've briefly mentioned this in the past GT Lives too, but it's like award ceremonies are the same thing, right? Where it's not about who is actually the most meritorious of that award or that nomination. It's literally how many parties did you pay to get into,
It's
and how
just
many people
politics.
did you suck up to? And it's it's just sad.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
But you know what isn't
I'm
sad?
bummed.
That's okay. You know what isn't sad?
I'm bummed.
The success of our ARG.
What?
We have like 5 minutes left, so we have to wrap up with one last drop of tea,
Okay.
which I think should be to talk about. Tube Filter today did an article about our Game Theory ARG, which if any of you have been participating is coming to a rousing conclusion
On Saturday.
On Saturday, there was just a like a phone call about it today for like the
yeah.
final tweaks and some of the final like
we're
pieces
working
coming
on
in
some-
place for that for the last gate, and they did a press release on it today in Tube Filter. So I have it linked on Twitter. You're going to, so check that out. And if you haven't tried playing it yet,
There it is.
definitely go for it. Yes. 400,000 people have played it, which is massive and huge and overwhelming. And there are there are Reddit posts and there are groups out there who can help you get through answers if you get stuck in certain places. So I feel like it's also, now that we're coming to the end of it, it's sort of more fun to play as
Because you're
well.
not waiting for like the next installment to happen like a month later.
Yeah, you can play
2
all the
months.
way through it in one shot, and if you get stuck in certain places
Yeah.
and you really need help figuring it out, you can look up the answers, or you can even just go on Reddit and read through or watch our episode from last week about how like some of the first gates can be solved.
Yeah, it's been really interesting in the aftermath of us doing the video this past week about kind of like making people aware that this was a thing. Here's a reveal of some of the things that happened. I'm actually
Help you
excited.
out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about part 2 of that episode, which is coming out at the end of this week, in time with kind of the final gate launch, because it's specifically talking about GTeaLive and the clues that were hidden in episodes of GTeaLive, which I thought were really
Did
some of
you
my favorite.
know?
Yeah, were some of my all-time favorites. But it's one of those things where it's been cool because since doing that video, we've seen a huge influx of even more new players than the 400,000 coming in to play it for the first time, and legitimately trying to play the game, which is what I really admire and what's really cool to watch.
Yeah, not spoiling it for themselves too much ahead of time.
Yeah, where they, like, at this point, they know that those resources exist, that my video's kind of walking you through a lot of, like, the how-tos and this and that. But they're entering the experience and still very clearly trying to solve it bit by bit, puzzle by puzzle, which is awesome. And I'm so excited to see that people are treating it like a legitimate game, that, hey, here's a strategy guide, but I want to play it without using the strategy guide until I absolutely have to use it, which is super fun. Like that's so exciting. I'm so glad to see that people have been so excited about it, and that, you know, there's kind of been this like big readoption of it.
And one last
It's
plug,
really
by the
nice.
way, the article mentions it a little bit, but it cost us and mostly our merch partners, Creator Inc., almost $70,000 to create this online puzzle. It was a ton of programming. It was a ton of effort. A lot of server hosting because
lot of
so many
websites
people
and servers.
played it.
Yeah.
And so it was very expensive, but it was something that we were super, super passionate about and we're so excited to do. But if you want to support that effort and you want to, you know, I guess help us recoup some of the costs of that, and you want to see more stuff like that in the future, the best way to do that is to buy the merch. So if you are interested in any Game Theory merch, we have some still left from the back to school stuff. So it's awesome. It's great. Like, it's people have been sending us like these wonderful
Right,
notes
it's
about
great.
how
We need to
awesome
work
their
on a
pencil
moment.
cases are, and also how awesome their backpacks are and stuff like that. So if you want some, go get it. That's the best way to support us and to support stuff like the ARG that's just like fun for our community and like just celebrates everything that these channels kind of stand for.
Yeah, that was well said, Stephanie. Yeah,
thanks.
thank you. So that's it, I guess.
Yeah.
For today, right?
We have to go. Matthew has to write a script really badly, and
Really badly.
Matthew's parents are coming to visit tomorrow, so we have to go buy snacks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We're gonna get ready to party.
Got to go frantically
Woo,
clean
woo.
the house
Yeah, again.
and write a script.
Okay. Ugh.
I know. I cleaned the house. Yes, I cleaned the house earlier this weekend, but we got to clean the floors now.
Yeah.
My parents are
there's-
very clean.
Yeah, they're very clean people. We got a lot to live up to.
Very clean. And Steph and I are very clean, but
They're really, really,
they're really very clean.
Okay.
Really very. So,
So-
we got to go do that. I got to write a script. So anyway, guys, Sorry, it was a bit kind of like rambling all over the place, but it was a fun one
It was
today.
a fun one.
Fun.
It was nice to have a chat with you guys.
And we're back Thursday.
We're back Thursday. And
For a very exciting game.
Oh, yes.
That you guys are going to be so stoked for.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
so stoked for it. We got a preview of it at E3. It's finally available. Oh boy, howdy. Get hype.
I'm so excited for this. Okay, yeah.
It looks like it's going to be great.
And for those who were asking in the chat earlier, we will return to Horus probably next week. It's an awesome game. It's been really fun to play, but you're really going to want to be here on Thursday.
Yes.
In the lead up to Halloween. This is going to be a really exciting one.
I hope it's good.
Okay.
The beginning of it was really solid, so I hope
Yes.
it's good. We're excited to experience it.
I
with
didn't
you
even
guys.
survive the beginning of it.
You were terrible.
I made all the wrong choices.
You
I missed it.
were
Okay.
garbage.
Okay. See you Thursday. Okay.
Anyway, so that's Thursday, 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Hopefully you are here to join us. And in the meantime, remember, that's just some tea. Some GT Live.
Cheers.
Clink.
Ooh.